$3.8 billion. That's what one company made in 2025. Same year, Spirit Airlines, by the way, went bankrupt twice. Boeing and Airbus couldn't deliver planes on time. Engines were failing left and right, industry-wide. And here's the part that just doesn't add up. This company has never flown a single passenger. Not a single one. So what is it? And how does a company like that pull off its best year ever, the same year when everyone else in the industry just failing apart? The company is called AerCap. It doesn't sell tickets, it has never flown a single passenger, but by the end of 2025 it held 3,500 aircraft, engines and helicopters, owned outright under management or on order. Growing like that in a year that broke almost everyone else doesn't happen by accident. To understand how, start with the story everyone already tells about 2025. Ask anyone in the industry why 2025 was so brutal, and you will get a consistent answer. Forces outside anyone's control. Start with fuel. The Iran war triggered a fuel price shock that rippled across the industry. IATA slashed its 2026 global airline profit forecast from $41 billion down to $23 billion, nearly cut in half in a single revision. Willy Walsh, IATA's Director General, explained the logic.
There are two major factors. One is the significant increase in jet fuel prices, and then the disruption to the airlines in the Gulf region. So the combination has led us to reduce the forecast.
Fuel shocks, conflict zones, forces no airline executive can plan around. That's the story everyone tells. And it's not wrong. Airlines paid for it directly. Keeping older aircraft flying instead of retiring them on a normal schedule cost the industry roughly $11 billion in 2025. Fuel, maintenance and lease payments, because airlines operated planes nearly 2 years longer than the long-term average. Part of it, new jet engines meant to fix fuel problems instead brought contaminated metal, mass groundings, and months of repair backlogs.
We're afraid that this norm will stay,
said Jeffrey Lamb, COO of ST Engineering.
That is completely unacceptable.
But here is the part that doesn't quite fit the story though. Global air passenger traffic didn't fall in 2025. It actually grew 5.3% with a 7.8% surge in Asia Pacific alone. More passengers, more demand, and still the industry's profit outlook got cut nearly in half. If demand was rising and the rising costs were the only problem, the pain should have been evenly spread. A bad year for airlines, a bad year for everyone else connected to them. But it wasn't. Let's go back to that number. $3.8 billion. Remember it? That's the AerCap's 2025 net income. Start asking what AerCap actually is, and the pieces fit somewhere unexpected. AerCap doesn't build aircraft. It doesn't operate them. It buys them. Thousands of them. And it rents them to the airlines that do fly passengers. That's not a side business. That's the entire business. And it is called aircraft leasing. And it isn't a small corner of the industry. The leasing has gone from roughly 10% of the world's commercial fleet in the 70s to approximately 60% today. 6 out of every 10 commercial aircraft in the sky right now are not owned by the airline flying them. They are owned by a company like AerCap and leased. Even in North America, where airlines have the strongest access to corporate debt of any region, 40% of the fleet is leased. In Europe, Latin America and Asia, that number climbs to nearly 70%. This is the part of the aviation industry most passengers never think about. The part that doesn't fly anyone anywhere. The part that in 2025 had its best year on record. Okay, you can tell maybe AerCap is a one-off. One company, one unusually good year. But Check the list of the leasing industry and the pattern holds. Avolon, another major lessor, posted 2025 net income of $591 million, up 29% from the year before. Two of the largest lessors in the world, both posting strong growth in the same year, and Airline filed for bankruptcy twice, and the rest of the industry absorbed billions in extra costs. Look closer at AerCap and the pattern gets harder to dismiss as luck. Remember Spirit, the airline that filed for bankruptcy twice. The second filing wasn't just bad timing. In August 2025, AerCap terminated lease agreements on 36 aircraft scheduled for Spirit's fleet and claimed default on 37 more already flying. With most of its operating fleet suddenly in question, Spirit had nowhere left to go. The two sides settled that October. AerCap paid Spirit $150 million. Spirit rejected 27 of the 37 disputed leases, cutting its own fleet to survive. AerCap walked away with court approval to claim up to $572 million against Airline it had just helped push into bankruptcy. And it wasn't enough. 8 months after the dispute, on May 2nd, 2026, Spirit Airlines shut down completely. 34 years of history gone in a single day. The first major US airline to fail this way in 25 years. The company that terminated the leases didn't keep Spirit flying. It didn't have to. By the time Spirit needed AerCap's aircraft again, there was no airline left to fly them. Remember the Ukraine conflict? The aircraft got dropped there, stuck, inaccessible, effectively lost to their owners. AerCap's response? $1.5 billion in insurance and other recoveries related to those trapped aircraft. So that figure isn't a windfall. It is compensation for assets the company can no longer use. But it shows something important. Even when aircraft are physically lost, the financial structure around them can still return value to the owner. There is more. The US imposed tariffs of 25% to 50% on metals and components, inflating aerospace costs by up to $5 billion. Delta refused to take delivery of aircraft subject to the tariffs. The industry lobbied hard and secured a 0 for 0 exemption for civil aircraft and parts crossing US, EU, and UK borders. Even India couldn't fully test the system. When Go First and Indian Airline collapsed, lessors including SMBC and Pembroke moved to repossess their aircraft. Standard procedure under the International Cape Town Convention. India's aviation regulator, the DGCA, blocked them, froze the assets, argued local bankruptcy law overrides the international agreement. Major lessors now treat India as a risky jurisdiction because of it. The dispute remains unresolved, but the broader system it exposed, billions of dollars in aircraft financed and refinanced across borders, kept functioning everywhere else. The system runs on something most people never see: the asset-backed securitization market. The ABS market has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, driven by new master trust structures that let lessors issue debt continuously against expendable, cross-collateralized pools of aircraft. Joe McConnell, partner at Castle Lake, put it simply:
the ABS market is back. We're back at pre-pandemic levels in terms of debt structure, in terms of pricing, and in terms of advance.
Supply chain breakdowns, engine failures, a war, a tariff fight, and asset freeze in India. Every one of those forces hit the aviation industry in 2025. And the lessors, the part of the industry that owns the planes instead of flying them, came through all of it intact, or ahead. Here's the mechanism. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere in the industry. Step 1. OEMs can't deliver new planes on schedule. Boeing, Airbus, engine makers, all behind. Step 2. Airlines can't retire their old planes because no new planes are arriving to replace them. Step 3. Those old planes, the ones lessors already own, become more valuable, scarcer, harder to replace. Step 4. lease rates rise, residual values rise. Airlines needing the capacity extend leases and pay more for them. Step 5. Lessors' profits rise. AerCap's $3.8 billion, Avolon's $591 million. Step 6. Consolidation accelerates. SMBC Aviation Capital, Apollo, and Brookfield agreed to acquire Air Lease Corporation, one of the industry's largest players. Step 7. The market concentrates further. Larger players gain more pricing power, the cycle continues. Peter Barrett, the CEO of SMBC Aviation Capital, described the logic plainly.
In a maturing, communitizing industry, scale is relevant on many dimensions. Scale is also very relevant for the investor market.
Now here's the part that turns it from a market trend into something closer to a financial weapon. Look at how aircraft is treated under accounting rules. Under IFRS, an aircraft's acquisition cost isn't depreciated as one lump sum. It's broken into components: airframe, engines, landing gear, cabin interior, and each is depreciated separately over its own useful life. That's not a footnote, that's the architecture. It means each part of the aircraft can be tracked, valued, and managed on its own schedule. Engines in particular can move through maintenance, leasing, and financing on a different timeline than the airframe they're attached to. Put it together, the aircraft is leased, the components inside it are tracked and depreciated separately, and scarcity in engines, in airframes, in availability capacity sets the price for all of it. AerCap's balance sheet shows the scale this has reached. $71.6 billion in total assets, 3,500 units, the largest position in the global market. So, what happens next? Airbus says it can fix this, run production to 75 single aisle aircraft a month, and the scarcity feeding lessors' profit starts to ease. That's the plan. Industry leaders don't buy it. They call it critical uncertainty. Code for don't count on it. If Airbus can deliver, nothing changes. The scarcity holds. The mechanism keeps running. Then there is the money. Some analysts expect the Fed to cut rates in 2026. JP Morgan says don't bet on it. Inflation's too sticky. Tariffs are still biting. No consensus. Financing stays a question mark. And the bigger question, does supply ever catch up to demand? Some executives think it happens by the end of the decade. The evidence on engines and raw materials says otherwise. The gap could hold for years. If it does, this isn't a bad year. This is a new shape of the industry. One thread stays open: India. Will other jurisdictions follow its lead and start freezing assets the way the DGCA did? Nobody in the industry has an answer. Not yet. Remember 3 numbers. 10 to 60, the share of the world's fleet that moved from ownership to leasing in 50 years. 3.8 billion and $591 million, what 2 lessors banked in the same year and airline collapsed twice. 75, the number Airbus has to hit or none of this changes. The planes haven't changed. The ownership of their parts has. And as long as those parts stay scarce, the company that owns them holds the leverage, not the company that flies them. That's the weapon. Built one supply delay, one engine failure, one frozen asset at a time. AerCap has never flown a single passenger. It simply just doesn't need to. It just needs the rest of the industry to keep flying. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content like that. And leave a comment, that would be a huge support for us. See you in the next videos.